Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Creating Consciousness podcast. I'm your host, Lexi Montoya. It's nice to meet you all. In this initial Maiden Voyage session, I will be introducing myself, who I am, why I'm here, what my hope is for this space for all of us, and then we'll be talking about our very first topic. So let's get into it. All right, everybody. So again, my name is Lexi. It is such a pleasure and honor to be here in this space, creating a warm, comfortable welcome for us all. So as we come into this space, I want everybody listening, as long as you can safely do so, please just take a moment, close your eyes with me, and take a deep breath. And another. Last one. Thank yourself for being here. And thank you for being here. So again, my name is Lexi. It's such a exciting time to be in my world. So thank you for choosing to be here. I am so excited for where this is going to go, what this is going to turn into. This is going to be such a fun space and a place, hopefully for all of us to come together and talk about different spiritual aspects, different aspects of life, and just all things collective consciousness. So for those of you that don't know, I am 28 years old. I live in Colorado Springs, Colorado, with my girlfriend, Erin, and our two dogs, CJ and Harper. They keep us young, that's for sure. So in February of this year, 2022, I made the bold choice and decision to leave my job. I left corporate America. I used to work in the insurance world. I was very successful at it, but I worked in insurance for 6.5 years. And finally, I woke up one day after working with a wonderful mentor of mine, Victoria Pipo. She had told me that the more that you feel like you're stressing and straining against your internal heart desires and what your soul is calling you to do, the more that it's going to get very difficult for you in this current situation that you find yourself in, as she's referring to work. And of course, it did. So one day I woke up, and after a couple of, honestly minor inconveniences, but inconveniences nonetheless, I sat there and felt like crying. And so I did. And as I'm crying, I'm having this like full on breakdown. And I'm just sitting there praying. And for those of you that know me, know that I did not grow up religious. I grew up spiritual. I have a loving, wonderful mother and father that encouraged difference of opinion in mind, even though sometimes it wasn't always that way. But regardless, I grew up in an environment that I was allowed to think for myself. I was allowed to have my own ideas and come to my own conclusions. So with that, I sat and I prayed for one of the first times in a very long time. And I gave up the notion of control. And I said, please, dear God, tell me what I'm supposed to do here. I am so scared. I'm terrified. What do I need to do? Please show me. Give me a sign. Show me something, anything. I can't keep doing this anymore. This is going to kill me. And with that, I felt the most incredible burst of energy from my heart center. It was unlike anything that I have ever felt in my entire life. And immediately I knew that was the sign that I needed. And as soon as I felt that wave of energy, that rush of energy all throughout my body, starting in my heart center, I then heard the words, "It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter." And I started laughing maniacally because, again, I'm in the middle of a breakdown here, but I start laughing maniacally, and I just keep repeating to myself over and over and over again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It truly doesn't matter. And just how incredible that entire experience was, I will never forget that. So After my good cry session, I came back online at work and I reached out to my boss and I said, "Hey, do you have a minute?" And for anybody that is either in corporate management, has been in corporate management, really anybody, you guys know, anytime that somebody reaches out to you and says, "Hey, do you have a minute?" It's usually not for something very good. So she kind of maybe saw it coming, but not really. And I took her by surprise. I took myself by surprise. And I gave her my 2-week notice right there and then. I woke up that morning ready to go to work, ready to grind it out as I had been for the last 6.5 years. And that day I finally had enough. My soul really finally, truly got through to me. And the message of it doesn't matter. It really, truly doesn't matter came through loud and clear. So gave my 2 weeks, put that in, and I was gone. I was out of there, baby. So by midpoint of February, earlier this year, I was done. I was gone. I was out of there. And then with that came all the questions. Well, what are you doing? What's next? What are you going to do? I have no freaking idea. I really truly didn't. I had no idea. We'll take an aside real quick because as I'm starting to laugh, I'm getting a little wheezy. I went on a run this morning, and that's actually part of the topic that we're going to be discussing here in a couple of minutes. But when I went on a run, I have just slight asthmatic wheeze going on right now. So I'll try and keep my coughing down to a minimum, but hopefully we can get through and we'll be just fine. So with that, I had all of these questions coming in from all sorts of people all over the place saying, "Hey, what are you going to be doing now? What's the deal? What's next for you? Do you have another job? Do you have something lined up? How are you going to make money? How are you going to live? How are you going to support yourself? Oh my God, what are you doing?" And, I feel very privileged to have been able to say, I don't know, and I'm going to figure it out because I know, and I'm no stranger to people oftentimes make excuses for themselves because they're scared. So a lot of times I heard, "Well, it must be nice for you. You have money in the bank and now you don't have to work and you don't have to deal with any of this stuff, but I can't do that. I can't do that because I have a family, or I can't do that because I have X, Y, and Z going on," whatever it is. And to all of those, not critiques, but reflections of people being scared, I say, you can do it. You can do anything that you put your mind to. I'm living proof of that. And there are so many more of us that are as well. There are so many people out there right now that are doing the very same thing that I did. They have done. There are people out there that have been doing this for the last decade, the last several decades. People are starting to wake up, and they're starting to realize that we don't have to live in the society tells us that we do. So anyway, before I get on my soapbox, I do have an outline here. My type A personality couldn't let go of an outline, but everything else is from the heart. So I hope that you feel that. So with that, I felt called to start to share my voice more. I am in a period where I'm coming out of another grueling dark night of the soul. For those of you that have gone through these things, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And for those of you that have no idea what I'm talking about, I welcome your questions. Please let me know. I am new to this platform, so we'll see how this goes, but I know that I can receive messages, voice notes, things like that from my listeners. So I encourage anybody that feels called to do that. Please interact with me in that way. And for anybody else that is not really sure what that is or how to do that, I'm right there with you. But I do have an Instagram profile that I will include in some of the links, and I will also discuss towards the end of the podcast. I also have an email address. So if anybody has any comments, questions, concerns that they want to share with me as you're listening, please do. I would love for this to be a collaborative space with all of us, and I would really want to embody a full sense of community in every aspect of the word. So with that said, I hope that this is going to be a wonderful space for all of us to come to. I hope that this is going to be different types of sessions to get your brain working and thinking outside of a norm that you might typically have. I want to build a platform and build a space for all of us so that You can come, you can listen to this podcast, you can get a little bit of relaxation, hopefully, from it, from some of the topics that we cover. And maybe, hopefully, it starts to open your mind to different ideas and different thought forms or patterns that you might not have known were out there. So, with that, I hope that you guys enjoy this little introduction, and we'll jump into our first topic. All right, everybody. So, our first topic today is going to be on regulation and our nervous system. For those of you that are coming to the podcast from my social media sphere on Instagram, welcome. You all know that I am no stranger to talking about nervous system regulation, and I am a huge advocate for regulating your emotions, your nervous system, to make sure that you can go through life in the most even-keeled, normal, for you way as possible. So, with that, I mentioned earlier that I was running today. So, I used to be a really big runner. I used to be a very big runner. When I was in middle school and high school, I used to be in track and field, and then I also used to do cross country as well. Once I got into kind of the middle point of high school, I had to choose between running and rowing because they ended up having similar seasons. So I chose to stick with rowing. And I did actually rowing from the time that I was in middle and high school until I was actually in college as well. I didn't row all the way through college. Unfortunately, I was on a very strict, tight budget when I was in college. So unfortunately, I couldn't afford it after one semester, but I did really enjoy both of those things. So when I was a runner, I used to run so much. I used to run all the time. It's something, an activity that comes very naturally and easily to me. However, for those of you that know me now, know that I am in not very good shape. Hence my little tiny asthmatic wheeze. So I apologize again, but running is something that I think can be very therapeutic for all of us. There are definitely some of us that can run and can run very well, and then there are some of us that struggle while we run, and I have been in both of those categories within this lifetime. So whatever category that you find yourself currently in, I commend you, because running can be very stressful on your joints. It can be very stressful and taxing, just on your body in general. But I think something that it actually shares with yoga, which is something else that I do as well, is that in both practices, and actually in most practices that we find ourselves in, within physically moving our bodies here on this earth plane, we actually find that in most things and most situations, we run into a point of discomfort. And there's a lot of people that once they feel that discomfort, they stop. I used to be one of those people. So usually in yoga, running, rowing, weightlifting that I also do as well, pretty much anything. If I reached a point where it felt uncomfortable and I didn't want to keep going anymore, I got too hot, my joints were hurting, my muscles are hurting, I can't breathe like today, then I would just stop. So I haven't run in quite some time. It's been a while. I tore my ACL quite a few years ago. So after that, I was a little nervous to start running again as well. And even before that, I had really stopped running. So it's been a while. But this morning I woke up and I was in my, typical ritual practice that I do. I am a person that tends to be in a flow state in the morning. So it's kind of just whatever I feel called to do. If I feel called to enjoy some time with my plants and share some Reiki with them and do some kaizen rituals, and I'll do that. If I feel that I want to just lay in bed and listen to music and meditate, I'll do that. If I want to follow guided meditation, or if I want to do, anything of that nature, I'll do that. One of the things that I find that helps ground me to myself is moving my body. And I know a lot of us are like this as well. Practically everybody is like this, but again, I know that we're all in different stages of our journeys as well too. So as I mentioned before, I am coming out of a very intense dark night of the soul. So for the last few months, really, I really have not been doing much physical activity. At first, I felt really down on myself. I was very, hard. I had berated myself quite a bit for getting out of a wonderful routine that I had been doing with my girlfriend. We'd been working out, been lifting heavy weights. I was getting really fit. I'd lost a lot of weight. And then the holidays came around and I started eating a lot more. I started falling back into binge eating habits. I started falling back into just kind of generally not taking care of myself. And that really continued through for quite some time. I'll have periods, as most of us do, where I get back into it and then I fall out of it and then I get back into it again and then I fall out of it again. And that's okay. But I find myself right now and this morning, I heard very loud and clear from my guides, go for a run. I also have a massive scrape, and I'll keep this buttoned up a little bit because I don't want there to be too much TMI. And for those of us that are squeamish, I don't want to gross anybody out, but I was walking out to take the trash out the other day and I scraped open the back of my heel. So that said, going for a run this morning seemed like it was impossible. I was like, there's no freaking way I can't do this. Sorry, guys, that's not going to happen. And then they kept pushing me. They said, no, knock it off. You're okay. Your leg will be fine. Your foot is fine. Go for a run. I was like, dang it. Okay. So I got suited up. I went out for my run. I went for a mile. And it was so nice. It was so incredible. Because I was a collegiate athlete, I have a tendency to push myself a little too hard. And then I know that I do that. So then sometimes I don't push myself hard enough. Are you guys sensing a theme? I am. So this morning when I was running, I kept feeling like I couldn't breathe. I was like, I am going to die. I cannot breathe for anything. This is terrible. I gotta stop. I gotta stop. I can't do it anymore because I'm actually gonna pass out. I'm gonna die. And so I kind of had like a little quick powwow session with myself, and I said, listen, you're not gonna die. You're okay. How many times have you run? You felt this feeling. You felt like you were gonna die, but you haven't. How many times have you rode a 5K and had this feeling and thought that you were gonna die, and you didn't? It's just discomfort. And that's something that I think all of us can learn from. Is it uncomfortable or is it unsafe? Am I truly actually going to die if I go on this run? No. Okay. So for me this morning, what I ended up doing was I ran a little and then I walked a little and then I ran a little and I walked a little. And thankfully, where I was running, we have the incredible fortune of having a little park in the front of our house. Like literally, you step out the front door and there's a park. It's pretty awesome for us and for the dogs. And around the park, there is a sidewalk. So kind of four corners almost, but it's pretty easy, for me at least, to run a stretch or two and then stop and say, okay, on the next corner, you're going to run again. So I hope you guys can picture that kind of image, but that's what I ended up doing. I ran for a while. I said, okay, push it to the next one. You can do it. You'll make it. And then rest and breathe and get back into your space, get back into your breath, and then go again. And while I was running, I had this memory, this reminder that when I was in college, I used to do a lot of yoga and I was teaching classes as well. And when I was doing yoga, it was really intense for me to push myself past places that I thought that I couldn't go. You know, things like being in downward dog and thinking, I cannot possibly stretch anymore. I can't keep holding this. This is crazy. I'm not going to be able to do it. And then I did. And I just breathed. I softened. I let go and I surrendered to the process. And then when I did, I felt so incredible afterwards. And that's literally exactly what I did this morning. It was the same kind of principle, it was the same type of practice, because the act of pushing past the discomfort and the fear that I had in that, oh my God, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. Once I did, and I did actually push myself past that comfort zone, past the discomfort that I was feeling, I found that it was very healthy and very, very good for me. And once we find ourselves past the point of discomfort, we've gotten ourselves back into a safe, aligned, energetic center with our breath through intention. that's when we notice that the most hard work and the most growth is achieved. So, for me this morning, I was on this run and I'm thinking about what I was going to be talking about during my initial Maiden Voyage podcast episode. And I thought, this is it. This is what we're going to talk about today. So, translation to life, remember to breathe. Remember that anytime that you're feeling stressed, you're feeling uncomfortable, you're feeling worn out, burnt out, anything, take a breath. Literally, as soon as you notice that, when you can, close your eyes, take a breath, and then another, and then another. And you'll find after the first few breaths, you're going to feel right back to normal. So, with that, I hope you guys enjoyed our first topic for today. I want to also keep in mind that every week when we come together for a podcast, I actually think that I'm going to be doing a daily podcast. So, again, if you guys have topics or things you want me to talk about, please let me know. I'm always looking for collaboration here. So, in every end of our episode, I want to bring forward a mindfulness tip of the day, and that, in line with what our topic was for today, regulation and nervous system and emotions, is paying attention to your breath. When you feel stressed out, when you feel like you can't possibly go on in whatever you're doing, how are you breathing? Is your breath shallow? Is it fast? Are you almost like panting? What is your breath doing? And then in those moments when you're freaking out, you're panicking, you feel like you're going to lose it, can you take a step back and remember to breathe? Thank you, everybody, for joining me on this incredible maiden voyage of our podcast, Creating Consciousness. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you soon. Namaste.